Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing a mod to my Tesla Model Y to add a power frunk that'll actually move the frunk up and down and lock it for you with the touch of a button from your phone. Let's get into it. So just before we get into the unboxing and going over all the parts that come in this kit, I want to give a big shout out to T-Vibex for sponsoring this video, for sending this powered frunk kit to me and providing me with some of the installation instructions to go ahead and get it installed. Let's talk about what comes in the kit. This is a really nicely packaged kit, and you're going to get a lot of parts and pieces in here. This is going to be one of the more complicated installs that I've ever done, but I'm going to work on doing my best to show you guys all the angles, all the steps that I take to actually install this process. Let's jump right into it. You're going to get lots of different cables and cable management here. I'm going to go through all that process step by step as we get into installing it. I'm not going to cover it all in the unboxing here. One of the first things they get in this new design kit is some really sturdy brackets that are going to help the powered struts lift and support the hood of your car. So these are big, huge, beefy brackets. I'll show you where those go in a little while. Again, wires. There's a lot of wires, wiring harnesses, zip tie straps that we're going to have to organize to install this kit. I'll show you where all those go in the future. Over here on the right is the actual struts. Let's unbox one of these so you can see what they look like. These are the actual powered struts that are actually going to do the lifting when you get a signal from your front screen or your phone. This is what's going to extend and raise your hood of your car. You get two of those. There's another one tucked down in here. Two of the struts. Take off the plastic. Off to the side. It's Black Friday, Christmas time, so make sure that you're using any discount codes, and they might send you little gifts like they sent me here, some Christmas ornaments, which is fun. Kind of moving on. This is your kind of power controller, and it's set in one of these anti-static electronic packages. Well, this is going to be the brains of the operation, this kind of module here. We'll go over where to plug all that in and secure it later. More big zip ties, some kind of felt pads to help kind of secure things, big old zip ties. Let's see, some additional hardware, bolts and screws in case you need them, very handy. And then coming down here, this is the actual suction lock of what you're going to be doing to install kind of on top of the lock that sucks down the hood in your Model Y. So that's the actual motor piece down there, and this is the bracket. I'll show you where it installs and how it attaches to your factory installed hood latch system to kind of suck it down there. So lots of parts and pieces here. This is going to be kind of a bigger install. Hopefully this video is not super long. I'll speed up the processes and the parts that are repetitive, but let's jump over to the car. We're going to start by taking out some of the frunk, the front tub in the trunk, in the frunk, and getting some of those pieces out of the way. Let's head over there and do that now. So first things first, coming over to the frunk of your car, we got to get some access here. We got to get some things out of the way. We're going to start by removing this piece of trim panel here, which is held in by clips, your actual front tub, which is held in by 4 bolts. Then underneath all that, there is a HEPA filter assembly, your intake filter assembly. We're going to pop that off with a couple bolts as well. All right, now that we have some access, I want to point out a few things of where we're going to be working. It's going to be very hard for me to get any angles while I'm actually doing some of this work, but I'll have the camera set up, but I want to show you what I'm going to be working on. As we come down in here, if I can get an angle of it, right back here is the actual strut assembly. You can see it down in there. There's a little kind of metal piece we're going to be removing to take off that strut down there. See if I can get a better angle down here. Hard to see. But then up on this side too, there's the other part of that strut right down in there. So that's what's actually attaching to your trunk assembly up here is those strut pieces. So that's what we're going to be replacing with those black struts, those powered struts. Same on both sides. Over here, it's a little bit more tricky because I think you have a little bit less room. You can, oh, that's a good angle. So you can see how it attaches to the car in a little kind of silver post down there. And then it attaches up here on this front piece here. So that's the first step, is removing the old struts. When you do that, your hood's going to fall down. So either have a helper to hold your hood up, or I'm going to work a prop kind of piece in here and see if I can get this hood held up for me. So I just made a hood support using an old metal broom handle that I had, but it's actually secured really well there. I taped it up at the top because I don't want that falling on me as I'm working in here. All right, so now that we got the hood up and secured, I'm gonna be working on removing this struts. And I know it's super dark, you can't probably see that. But up at the top here, I'm gonna take a trim tool, and there's a little band of metal that's actually holding the strut on there. So as I get this out, I'll be able to explain it more to you guys, but I'm gonna work on removing the strut. So I was able to get the first strut off fairly easily. The way I used it, the small flathead screwdriver was actually the easiest way I found. And you can see this kind of metal band, if it'll focus on here. Little metal band that's going around and actually providing tension on that ball joint. So I just slip that metal screwdriver back down in here. Come on, focus. There we go. To pull that little band back, and see how it gives you kind of some access then? Pulling that little band back, and then you can easily take it off from the top and the bottom, from the little post down there and the actual strut that's holding it on your hood. All right, bringing you guys in just for a little bit of a close-up so you can see what I'm working on. We remove the strut. Right there is that red ball where the first strut goes, and down there is the silver ball where the other part of the strut went. We need to remove that silver post down there. That's where that black bracket that I went over in the unboxing is going to go. I'm going to be using a 13 millimeter wrench to take out that post there, and I'll come back and show you what we do after that. All right, so we got that post out. Super, super easy. This is what it looks like up close, and that's where that old strut used to attach. We're going to be taking the washer off there. We'll do that in a second. And then we're actually going to be using this bracket that came with the kit. You get two of these, one for each side. They'll only fit one way, and this one's going to fit over on your passenger side exactly this way. And what it kind of does, it relocates where the struts were. This is where the old strut was. We're going to be using that hole, and it's going to be attaching down to this new strut here on this reinforced metal bracket. We're going to be using the washer and the nut that came with the kit and installing it this way. So I'll get you a close-up as I get this installed, but that's how it's going to look and sit down in there where I just had it. We're going to use that washer and this hex nut to tighten it back in to where we removed this silver post. Just wanted to get a quick close-up of the actual bracket down in there, and you can kind of see if it'll focus. That's how we're going to be using that old hole that we removed that silver post from and attaching the new bracket with that little bolt that comes in the kit. Just a super quick tip, there's not a lot of room down there, so I was able to use a tool like this, just a screwdriver with this flexible angle on it to allow me to tighten that bolt down in there. You can use the Allen key that's included, but there's just not a lot of room to turn it. So any tools you have at your disposal to help you tighten that bolt down in that bracket is really, really helpful. So we have the new black bracket installed. The next step is really picking up one of your struts. It doesn't matter which one, they're interchangeable. There's no left and right on your actual strut. And you need this installed where the old one was. You can see it's the same kind of design. There's this metal clip around the bottom. You can see how it provides some tension here on the inside. And same up on the top here, which is actually going to attach to your hood bracket back there. So this is the way it should work. This is going to attach to that new black bracket we installed. And then we're going to come up to the top and pop this onto that hood strut piece that attaches to your hood. So bringing you guys back in for a close-up here, you can see the new strut is attached and installed on the top of the hood there, and then down at the bottom on that new black bracket is perfect. So simple. I got two nice satisfying clicks as I attached each of them to that ball socket, and we're good to go on this side. You can see the wires just routed underneath right now. It's just kind of flopping out here. We'll go through all the wiring setup later. All right, so the next step is actually over on the right side of the car. We're going to be doing the same process, removing the strut that's over there, installing this black bracket that came with the kit, and then installing our new powered strut for our Power Frunk kit. All the videos I've watched said this side is much harder. There's stuff kind of in the way. It doesn't look like you have as much access over there. So I'm going to work on all of this, and I'll bring you guys along as we go through the steps. All right, so we were able to get that strut out fairly easily. I found it a lot easier rather than trying to remove this little metal band at the bottom. Just go in with the socket and come in from the top, and you can actually just start removing this bolt while it's all attached. Saves you some time from having to remove this little metal band on the factory strut. The next step after we remove that factory strut is installing the new bracket over on the right side of the car. Using the bracket included with the kit as well as the bolt, we're going to put this back where we removed that silver post down in there. All right, so we were able to install that bracket down there. I found out just using an Allen key down there is much easier. There's just not a lot of space to actually work in any sort of additional tool. If you have a ratcheting Allen key or one of those little ones, that'd be an awesome tool to have here. I don't, so I just tightened it down by hand. Took a little while just because you're only able to turn this about a quarter of a turn each time, but it was going in there just fine. When I got that bracket installed down there, the next step is popping on this strut over on the driver's side of the car. All right, so after we got that black bracket installed, we were able to throw on the strut over on this side. Easily snapped in down there. Up here was a little bit of work to get it to snap into your hood bracket here, but other than that, it went on just fine, just as it's supposed to. I have the cord just kind of ran underneath here. You can see the cord there, and the other one there from the struts. I also took out my hood support pole, and the struts are actually holding up the hood on their own. So I'd call that a success so far. The next step, what we're going to be doing is really kind of doing some work down here on our front latching system. We're going to be removing the actual stock latching system here where it hooks to your hood latch and installing that suction lock that comes in the kit. It kind of sandwiches between these two. You'll see how it all goes together. But we're going to pop these off with a couple bolts here, and I'll show you how to hook up and assemble the actual kit that comes with the Auto Frunk kit. So quick overview of what we're going to be doing. This is the actual piece that's going to sandwich between your stock latch kit in the car, and this is going to just kind of have that a trigger to pull the suction lock down. We'll show you how to attach all that. This piece that's connected to it is the motor. This is what actually does the tensioning, pulls it all down, and it comes with a safety release cord. And I'll show you where to attach this too. This comes out the front of your car. In case anything ever fails in here, you want to be able to access your frunk, so it gives you a manual release cord to be able to do all that. Let's pop out the bolts on that one, and I'll show you how to sandwich all this in and install this piece together. So we have the stock hood latch sitting down there, and this is the actual latch to the kit we're going to be installing. And this is kind of how it sandwiches together. It's just going to kind of clamp right on the back of this one, and you'll use the original bolts that you used to put everything together, but that's how it's going to kind of sit. What we need to do is this little piece that's on the kit piece, this little hook needs to go over this silver handle, this little silver tab right there. That's what's going to actually pull down the lock and kind of attach and secure your hood. So I'm going to go ahead and work on removing some pieces of this spring, getting this attached, and buttoning it all back up. So we got the suction lock part installed. It's kind of sandwiched in here, and we're going to have to do a lot of adjustment and fine tuning. So I just put the bolts back in. It's probably not in the right place it's going to be. But the next step I want to focus on is following these cords down. This connects again to that motor assembly we talked about. None of this is attached to the car yet. But I want to focus on this emergency release latch. Before we start testing or do anything else, I want to get this set up. This is going to feed from inside the car here out to your little emergency access panel here. So let's get that set up. So starting at the front of the car, if you push on this upper right corner, it kind of pops out. You can see that it accesses some wires in here. I think this is in case you ever need to unlock the car or like an emergency situation. But what you're going to do is take that emergency release latch and fish it down. Find that spot in the car. And you can see it from the inside here fairly easily. And there we go. So now that I have this here and the whole kind of assembly sticking out, I want to use one of the included zip ties and just tie it together here so this never gets lost back up in the car and I can't find it. So I'm just going to zip tie it to these kind of straps that are here. Just in case we ever need to find it again, we're going to know where it is. So we just finished up installing our emergency release latch, our safety release latch down on our access port there. You can see where it comes through on the front here, down through there. The next thing we're actually going to be doing is talking about some of the wiring to wire all of this goodness up. We've done a lot of the hardware work. Now we got to finish up the wiring and putting it all together. The first step is installing power. On my Model Y, how I get power is from this little attachment back here. This leads directly to my battery. So pulling that off, there's a little nut already on here, but the kit supplies one if you don't have a nut on there. And I'm going to be feeding up this power harness underneath this rubber gasket and attaching it right to this terminal here. So we have our power going. It's not hooked up to anything right now, but I just attached it to this little part and screwed a nut down on there. It's going to cover up that terminal again. And here's our power kind of coming out there. And don't worry, this is going to look like a huge mess until we kind of organize some of these wires. So I'm not too worried about it. I'll walk you through all that whole process, but I just kind of want to get things plugged in so I can get an idea of where they're going to be going. This is the wiring harness that comes with the kit. This big old spider nest of wires. So we're going to start unfolding it and see kind of where we got. And I want to start off with some easy connections first, which is going to be our strut assemblies. Those are going to be some of our easier ones where they plug in. There's lots of different cables and cords here. But it's going to be pretty simple on where they all plug in. They're only really going to fit one different way. So up on here, we have our two kind of main plugs, and these are going to fit our struts, D3 and D4. Shouldn't matter too much which side you're plugging them in, but that's where we're going to start. And they only kind of go one way. Make sure you hear that nice satisfying click as you get them plugged in. So as I'm organizing my wires, I have the two struts plugged in. This big old beefy thing is going to be plugged into our controller. We'll do that in a next step. But I want to just kind of keep some of these wires together, keep it kind of neat so I know where I'm working here. And I want to find the brown plug. And I see it down here. This brown plug is going to plug in, it says D5 on it. I'm going to kind of untangle it from some of these other wires. It's going to plug into my electric motor, the one that's actually going to pull the trunk down. So find out which way it goes. And we're going to just plug it in here. It's a nice blue band on here to keep it nice and watertight. Should get a nice audible click out of it as you plug it in. What I want to do next is actually grab my controller box, my big old beefy controller box, and get this plugged in. So it should only go one way as well. So find it's got a nice blue band in there to plug it all into. Find that, give it a nice solid plug in until it's nice and firmly seated in there. Make sure I have that going the right way, and I think I do. Yeah, it's only going to fit one way. So get that nice and secure and plugged in. And I heard a nice click out of there. Great. So I took a quick second and just organized my wires a little bit. The wires that are going to be heading to the back, I have my power wire back here, which is going to plug into this power wire. My two strut wires are coming down to the main controller. I plugged in a little speaker. It's the only plug it'll go in. That'll give us a beep when we're closing the frunk. Everything's going to the main control unit. And then down here, there's a whole conglomerate of plugs that are going to be plugging into our suction lock up here in the front. So I kind of have those routed to the front. The next step I want to do is install this little ground wire. There's lots of places over on the side of your Tesla where you can put a ground wire. Over here, this one back here. So find one of those and just install your ground wire next. So I finished up a whole bunch of the wiring off camera, but I want to give you guys a walkthrough of how everything got hooked up. Power plug went over to the power. All the cords that came from the struts are attached. The cord that actually came down here, another one came and plugged into this little guy, one of the little daisy chains here. We had two come up here to our actual suction lock. One right here that we plugged in, and then one that went into the original harness that we removed from this area. Pretty simple. I think there's only one place the cords can go. There's not a lot of confusion. And we plugged that in that brown cord down here to our actual winch system. We have powered everything. We have a nice blinking red light on our control unit here. So I think we're almost ready to attach our button and do a little bit of a test. So before we test it for the first time, we have to grab our actual button back. You can see that on camera. This is actually a button you can close, and we're going to plug this back in. That's the last connection. This was one of the original wires we removed. So just kind of fish around in this pool down here until you find it, and go ahead and plug that back into your harness here. All right, I think we can do some more settings here, but let's give it a test and see what happens. Not too bad for the first time I ever pushed the button. You guys heard some of the beeps and everything. Let's get it back open and take a look and see if we need to adjust anything. Pretty slick. All right, guys, we got it all installed. It seems aligned really well. I'm going to do a little bit more fiddling to make sure the alignment is just perfect. But I want to show you guys how you can customize the speed at which your frunk hood closes. So on your actual control panel, you have a little button next to this red blinking light. I'm not sure if you can see that on camera. But if I hold that, you'll hear a loud beep, which is kind of resetting the system. And then a number of beeps will tell you how fast your system is actually going to close, So the more beeps, the faster it's going to close. So let's see what happens. Holding the button. Your first loud beep. 3 is that fast. 4 is a little faster. 5. 5. I think that's as fast as it goes. So I have it at the highest setting now. So let's take a look and see how fast that actually closes now. I'll scoot you guys back so you can get a good shot of this. And then I'm going to do it on the slowest setting to see if we can tell a difference. So this is on that 5 or 6 beeps. So pretty decently fast. Let's see how fast it opens. That flies up pretty fast. I'm going to set it now to the 3 beeps and we'll see if there's a difference. So I set it to the 3 beeps. Let's see if it's a little bit slower. Oh yeah, much slower system there. Nice. Let's try opening it on the 3 beeps and see how that does. So it looks like the beeps just control the speed at which the trunk closes. Still flies up plenty fast. I like that, but it's just the speed at which it closes. I think between like a 4 and a 5 is going to be really well for what I want to use this for. So looking at the hood alignment, you want to make sure that it's really aligned in the center. Your actual post up here, you want to make sure it's really aligned with this kind of V notch in here. So I lined this up the best I could when installing all this to get this center of my car, this actual V, directly lined up with this part where the hood's going to be latched down in there. So it's actually working pretty well right now. I think I want to raise it up just a little bit. And so you can easily do that by adjusting these 2 bolts that we put in. Loosen those a little bit and move this entire assembly up, down, left, and right. Really adjustable. You want to dial it in just right so your hood is in perfect alignment. That looks really nicely aligned. Remember, when you're actually installing your frunk tub, it's going to push up just a little bit on these corners. You have some adjustment on some screws on the underside of your hood here where you can kind of bring up these corners just a little bit more. But I really like that alignment. I'm really aligned to the left and the right really nice and along the front. I think I really like that. All right, so we got the alignment where I want on the hood. It's nice and centered here in the middle, and it actually pulls down so it's nice and flush with the front here. Super happy with everything so far. It's worked flawlessly since I've installed it. I have the speed set to how I want. I think the next step is really tightening up a lot of these wires, hiding some of these, zip tying them out of the way. So I'm going to work on all that, and I'm going to show you guys what I came up with for everything. The other thing you're going to want to do is really securely attach your main control box. And I'll show you where I attach mine, as well as your actual control motor, the motor for the suction lock. So we're going to tighten those 2 things up and tighten up all the wires, and I'll show you guys what I come up with at the end before we put everything back away. After a quick tidy up, this is what we end up with. First strut wire coming down here, going across, plugging in the actual control box, and most of the cords kind of up here, kind of towards the back. I wanted this kind of out of the way from my HEPA unit filter, and I tested that several times. It seems to fit fine. Power plug for the entire unit's going up here, kind of following the wires down along here, just zip tied to some existing wires and what's going on, ending kind of right down here. Just kind of a big pile right here. Out of the way. This will all be out of the way when you put your frunk tub back in. And last, this is your wire you're going to need to plug in your button. So I think it's a pretty clean job after you take a look at all of it and kind of zoom out and get a good global view. Cleans up really nice. There's not a lot of excess wires. Can't even tell it's there. Now I can still access my control button if I want to come over here. And just by removing my HEPA filter, I can easily come and change the speed of my frunk if I need to. So let's get this project buttoned up. I'm going to reinstall the HEPA filter, the frunk tub, the trim piece that goes back on it, all the other little odds and ends, and we'll test it out. Now with this trim panel off, this little button panel here, you can still do some fine adjustments in here if you need to. You can get down in here and without taking apart everything, still do some fine adjustments. Let's see how it closes now that I have the front tub back installed. got everything back installed. Let's see how it works. So we're just about done here. I want to show you guys how seamlessly this integrates into your Tesla app. Using your Tesla app, hitting the Frunk button, pops it right open for you. Absolutely love that. 2 ways to close the Frunk. Push the button on the inside as you're leaving, or push this button again. Closes right away. Super smooth. Well, that about wraps up this project. Talk about a much needed quality of life upgrade for your Tesla. I love customizing my Tesla, but like I said in other videos, I love solving problems. Having a power closing frunk that opens and closes for you from your Tesla app, it's a no-brainer. This is the way the car should have come in the first place. I think we're going to use the frunk a lot more now because I would often avoid using it before when I'd have to get out and manually close it. I never liked pushing on my hood a whole lot. I always felt kind of wonky, a little flimsy. This is incredible. I really like this product. Installation on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it on a difficulty scale, 10 being the most difficult, probably like a 6 or a 7. You have to have some pretty technical skills to understand what you're doing down in there when you're installing some struts. You need some specific tools. The kit comes with most of the tools you'll need, but you'll need some socket sets to take off some of these pieces, the HEPA filter, the front trunk, and then installing some of the suction lock back together. You'll need some pieces for that too. So you need some tools for that too. So just make sure you're equipped before you jump into a project like this. I would say this took me about 2 hours to install everything with the filming that I had to do and trying to get some shots for you guys, probably 2.5 hours altogether. I think now that I've done this once, I could probably do it again in an hour or so on someone else's car. But I think that's just a testament to how great the product is. A huge thank you to T-Vibe for sending this over to me. Big thank you to them. I think I really appreciate partnering with you guys. They've hooked me up with some other things for my car, but I'm really glad I got an opportunity to partner with them again to show this off for you guys. If you're interested in this product, links down in the description, but make sure you use my discount code GAMBLE1080 here on the screen for a huge discount on their website. It'll save you a ton of money if you go to buy this project and install this in your car. I'm really, really happy with it. I think it's so awesome how it seamlessly integrates into the phone. You easily open and close the trunk whenever you want. And we're just going to get a ton of use out of it. It seems like a really sturdy product. I've probably opened it, 20, 30 times right now, which is what you'll do in a normal week of normal using it. But I really, really appreciate it. So big thank you to you guys too for coming out and checking out the channel. Link to the products in the description again, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Feel free to like and subscribe. Catch you guys later.